Seahawks are sending quarterback Geno Smith to the Raiders for a third-round pick. Vegas had been linked to free agents like Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, but Pete Carroll is instead reunited with Smith, who's coming off a career high in both passing yards and completion percentage, despite being sacked 50 times. Here are the details of the deal. That third-round pick is this year's pick, belonging to Vegas, number 92 overall for Geno Smith, who is headed into the final year of his contract. He'll turn 35 years old in October. All right, I called it a chess move, but I'll let our NFL analysts decide how we should view this deal. Chess or checkers, great move, kind of move. Former defensive back Bryant McFadden, former CEO of the Raiders, Amy Trask, joining us now. Okay, Amy, your reaction when you saw this deal. Is this a win for Vegas, considering some of the other options that were out there at QB?
Chris, I like this. It's an upgrade at quarterback, good value for the trade. You've got a starting quarterback for a third-round pick. I've shared before that I like the hire of Pete Carroll, and now I like the pairing or the repairing of Pete and Geno. I think it's a win.
Okay, B-Mac, from your perspective, grade this out for us, how this fits with what the Raiders want to do, need to do, and maybe what Geno's walking into, the situation.
Well, for me, this is an A. This is an A, and here's why. Pete Carroll will be 74 in September. So it's safe to say he has no time to wait around like an Uber passenger. He has to go get this thing rolling right now. So he went out and got a quarterback that he knows extremely well. The football relationship is there. They've had success, and he's comfortable with Geno Smith. And the same can be said with Geno Smith being comfortable and really loving being around Pete Carroll. So this makes all the sense in the world. To everything that Amy mentioned, I add to that. I believe in it. I think this is a fantastic move by the Raiders, being able to go ahead and get a NFL-ready quarterback right now to jump into your organization and be the day one starter and have a significant impact.
All right, so instead of an A, maybe 5 stars if we're going to use the Uber rating system here from BMAC. All right, Amy, with the quarterback now in place, what else do you want to see from Las Vegas? What moves or positions should they be prioritizing?
Well, this trade now gives them greater optionality in so many regards, greater optionality in free agency, greater optionality in the draft. Look, they still have their first-round pick. If there's someone they love who will be there at 6, great. If they want to trade up, fine. If they want to trade down and amass picks, they can. What doing this, and Bryant just noted it beautifully, I can't state it any better. They now have a starter at quarterback going into the season, and that gives them a lot more optionality with respect to the roster.
All right, B-Max, so a starter going into this season, but as we mentioned, Geno's going into the last year of his deal. We talked about his age, turning 35 in October, and as you see, the Raiders still hold that number 6 overall pick. So what should Vegas do here with that pick?
If everything goes accordingly in terms of the quarterbacks and, the defender and Abdul Carter are being off the board by the time the Raiders are up to make their first-round selection, I think Ted McMillan is the way to go. The outstanding, talented wide receiver from Arizona had an outstanding collegiate career. The thing I love about Ted McMillan, he has the measurables of a T. Higgins and the smoothness of an A.J. Green. The opportunity to eventually play his way to become the wide receiver 1 for that offense. You pair him up with Jacoby Myers, who had a really good, quiet year a year ago, not to mention the pass catcher and offensive weapon they have in Brock Bowers. If you're Geno Smith, you love the foundational pieces that you're walking into, especially if Ted McMillan is there at 6.
Okay, let me, Brian, ask you about what maybe a player in the Seattle organization is thinking here. DK Metcalf wants a trade. They just released Tyler Lockett. And now you trade your quarterback. If you're a member of the Seahawks here, are you looking around thinking, what is our plan? Or are you trusting in John Schneider, who's obviously done this really well for a long time?
Well, you have to trust in GM John Schneider because, to your point, Chris, he has a real good resume of hitting on draft picks and doing well in free agency. But right now, there's a conundrum going on with the confusing moves that we're seeing. It's almost like they're forcing their way into a rebuild. This was a very, very successful team, in my opinion, with Mike McDonald in year 1 as the head coach. But now you're kind of moving some of your key contributors away to other opportunities. And I talked about Pete Carroll not having the luxury of just waiting around. Heck, Pete, if you want to see exactly what's going on and improve your team, maybe throw a flyer out to Seattle to see what it would take to go get a DK Metcalf, and potentially a second rounder for sure. So if you're Pete Carroll, like I said, he will be 74 in September. No question, he's aged like fine wine, but he has no time to wait around. So if you want to add more arsenal to what you already have in place, Seattle, I mean, hey, what it would take to get DK reunited, and it feels so good. We know that's a song we all love. And I think it would be a great situation for Vegas if that could become a new opportunity in landing another former player that Pete Carroll has coached and drafted to become part of the Raider Nation.
I'm not going to sing. Amy, if you're Sam Darnold, right, who appears to be QB1 on the free agent market, and you're Seattle, a team that now needs a QB1, trading a guy like DK maybe doesn't make it more attractive to Darnold, but are all the stars aligning here for Sam Darnold to really be the target of Seattle? What do you think?
Well, before I answer that, I will just tell you, I'm a little bit crushed that you said we're not going to sing, because when I heard Bryant say that, my initial comment was going to be, maybe the three of us should sing, but that might not be good for CBS HQ, Sports HQ. Look, you may absolutely be right. It may be Sam to Seattle. There's certainly a lot of murmuring and rumoring and chitter-chatter about that. I also wouldn't be surprised to see another team, whether it's Minnesota or any other team, swoop in and try to grab Sam Darnold. He is one of the more interesting quarterbacks available on the free agent market. There's a couple of more interesting quarterbacks there as well. One that I don't think is talked about enough is Russell Wilson. We don't know what Pittsburgh's going to do in that regard, and if Russell ends up somewhere else, I think that's an interesting option.
And there's the tweet from our Jonathan Jones here that the Seahawks have been rumored as a potential Sam Darnold landing spot. Of course, now with this most recent move, it certainly makes sense that that connection would be made. All right, B-Mac, would that be an upgrade, do you think, in Seattle if they bring in Darnold over Geno?
Wow, great question, Chris. To be determined, I think, because if you look at the trajectory that we're watching with Sam Darnold, it's almost kind of following the footsteps of Geno Smith before he became a Seattle Seahawks quarterback.
Great.
Because remember, people wrote him off. Geno said he never wrote back. Folks wrote off Sam Darnold, and clearly he didn't write back either. And there lies the opportunity for him to revitalize his career like he did a year ago for the Minnesota Vikings. So it's almost like these two players that we're talking about, they're kind of following the footsteps, more so Sam following the footsteps of Geno Smith, especially if he's able to become the next quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, hopefully trying to do the same thing that Geno did, revitalize his career as a franchise type of player, earn the respect of the organization, and outside of that, earning the respect of the NFL landscape, because we felt like Geno Smith, his best years